Welcome back to First Take. The NFL offseason underway as teams begin OTAs today. Among those teams are the AFC Championship runner-up, the Bills, and AFC contender Ravens. Both teams face off for a divisional round rematch Week 1 in Buffalo. As we take a look at the Super Bowl odds from ESPN Bet Sportsbook, Baltimore has the third shortest odds at plus 650, while Buffalo sits right behind them with the fourth shortest odds at plus 700. Paging Ryan Clark. RC, will this be the year Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen get to the Super Bowl?
Obviously, I think the thing that's been standing in their way is Patrick Mahomes. And you're asking about two quarterbacks who's never been there when Joe Burrow has. But I do believe this is the year that one of those players gets to a Super Bowl. And if I'm being honest, I have more trust in Josh Allen. The reason I have more trust in Josh Allen is because I've seen him perform on the biggest stages, whether it's the AFC Championship, the divisional round in the playoffs. Standing across from Patrick Mahomes, there was no difference in the way that those two quarterbacks led their team. Think back to last year on the Trent McDuffie fourth down blitz. Josh Allen gives Dalton Kincaid an opportunity to win that game. And so for me, Lamar Jackson has nothing to prove to me in the regular season. Nothing to say to me or prove to me about being one of the greatest quarterbacks of this era, but he has to perform in the playoffs. And when you look at the way that both of these teams are constructed, they are built to win. But the quarterback that I trust most out of those two in the playoffs is Josh Allen.
Stephen A?
Well, I completely agree. Josh Allen is the one to trust because we've looked at, and as I've said on many occasions, whether it's RC here, it's Swagoo, it's Cam Newton, I said, don't let it be you. Don't let it be you. That's the attitude. And so when the Buffalo Bills have shown up in the playoffs, it's rare in the day that we've looked at Josh Allen and said he was the reason they didn't get over the hump. He was the reason they didn't get it done. There's been a few occasions where we've looked at Lamar Jackson and he's come up short. I don't think there's more pressure on anybody more so than him out of the AFC when you consider the personnel that's there and what they've been able to accomplish. Patrick Mahomes is highly motivated because when you get stomped in the Super Bowl the way that they did by the Philadelphia Eagles, certainly there's a lot of amends to be made. Patrick Mahomes has to play better. Travis Kelce has to play better. Andy Reid has to coach better because he didn't seem to have them prepared for the Super Bowl. And I don't know if there's any time in the career of Andy Reid where we've been able to look at him and say that about him. But after they got romped in the Super Bowl by the Eagles the way that they did, we have no choice but to look at it that way. Joe Burrow has been to a Super Bowl, and he's beaten Patrick Mahomes to get there. We've seen Josh Allen go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes and come up short, but primarily because of a defense that couldn't stop him, specifically with 13 seconds left in the regulation, for crying out loud, and they managed to ultimately get a victory in that game. We've seen Lamar Jackson come up short, and he's a three-time league MVP. We've been looking at him. We say, all right, enough's enough. I mean, you got to show up and you got to handle your business and get it done. And that's what we're looking at it right now. And so to answer the question, if you told me, is this the year Allen or Lamar reach the Super Bowl, I don't know if either of them will be the case because of not just Patrick Mahomes, but Joe Burrow, who politicked for and ultimately was successful in this quest to keep T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So both of those dudes are going to be standing in the way of a Lamar Jackson or a Josh Allen. But if you had to pick who you have more faith in to overcome those kind of odds, those kind of barriers, it would have to be Josh Allen until further notice.
Okay, so you guys completely agree because, RC, obviously you brought up Burrow and also said Allen. But let me ask you this, RC. What's going to be the narrative on First Take, on NFL Live, on Pivot, on all the shows? Well, maybe not the Pivot. We'll just stick with First Take and NFL Live. What's going to be the narrative if Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen do not get to a Super Bowl this season?
I think it's going to continue being the narrative that they come up short as a team, but it depends on who goes to the Super Bowl. If Patrick Mahomes goes to the Super Bowl again and both of or one of these men and their team fall to the Kansas City Chiefs, it's going to be more about his dominance, about Patrick Mahomes being the quarterback of this era the way that Tom Brady was the quarterback of his. And so I don't necessarily think that that's what matters. It's if Justin Herbert can get to a Super Bowl, or if we see Joe Burrow get back to a Super Bowl, then it's going to start to show up that these two men that we know will have gold jackets one day, these two men who both have MVPs on their mantle, aren't doing the things that you need to do at the proper time to become one of the all-time greats. We don't have anybody in that all-time great discussion or in that GOAT discussion that doesn't have a Lombardi trophy. And for Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson to be as great as they are individually and never have even taken a team to a Super Bowl, that's underachieving in my opinion. And so it'll still be those people underachieving, but I do believe it matters who represents the AFC in the Super Bowl, especially at the quarterback position.
All right, we'll leave it there. RC, appreciate you.
Of his own QR code to download his own podcast. That's great.
That's great.
All right, Shefty, 23 different teams start OTAs today. Is there something specific that we should be keeping an eye on?
Well, I think the most interesting storyline going into OTAs, and it will be a storyline throughout the summer, is the quarterback room of the Cleveland Browns. Is there a more interesting topic in the National Football League than who's going to be the starting quarterback in a division going up against Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and maybe Aaron Rodgers? Well, it could be Shedeur Sanders. It could be Dylan Gabriel. It could be Joe Flacco. It could be Kenny Pickett. We don't think that Deshaun Watson will be recovered from his second torn Achilles injury, though he's been throwing the football and trying to get back. So the Cleveland Browns are in OTAs, and I think this is a chance for them to get a extended look at some of these quarterbacks, see what they could do, see what they think going into the summer break and training camp this summer. But that's going to be something that I think we're all interested in all summer long. There'll be a lot of conversations about what Cleveland's going to do at quarterback.
Shefty, last week this time, we were given last rites to the tush push. Fast forward
Amazing,
to a
right?
week later, impassioned plea from Jeffrey Lurie, Jason Kelsey, and others. How did we get to the place where the tush push is now going to be allowed for 2025?
Well, I think the Eagles made a very persuasive argument, and you needed 24 teams to vote against it, and the league got 22. They fell 2 votes short. So clearly, all the lobbying that the Eagles have been doing for weeks, all the calls that they made individually to general managers and coaches and owners across the league, it carried enough weight on a couple of teams to prevent them from switching. And then I think when you bring in Jason Kelsey and explain the play, and he's explaining that he doesn't believe a player is more at risk, it's more about leverage and getting down, and that there's not an increased risk for injury, I think people heard him, and they were able to do enough, not a lot, but enough to prevent those final 2 teams from switching over. And so the vote came in 22-10, which also happened to be the score that the Eagles beat the Packers in the playoff game this past season.
Come on, Adam.
I mean, you can't make up this stuff. Like, for all those
Rubbing it
people who
in.
say that there are script writers, well, the script writers wrote that